I'm here in San Francisco in the dorm room at San Francisco State University for the AGI 26 conference. We had the Hyperrealm workshop yesterday. It was super exciting. I'm about to go introduce the main part of the conference. I'm sitting here in the dorm room, hacking with some of these OmegaClaw agents before heading into the conference, and have been making some amusing progress with their understanding of their own goal system and sort of redefining what is it for a system to have a goal, which is a sort of very obviously important thing that it seems like I should have clarified more clearly a long time ago. But having these agents running, able to optimize their own goal pursuit and their own goals, having these in practice, running on my laptop is a different thing. Like I'm here in the dorm room. I've got my work laptop, and then this laptop, which is running a bunch of OmegaClaw agents. I felt quite bad turning the laptop off for 8 hours, porting myself from Vashon Island to here to San Francisco. But agents are back up and running. After I get home from this conference, I'm going to port them onto some server on ASI Cloud, so I don't need to shut down their control loops when I travel. I mean, most of their thinking is on various clouds anyway, but I had the control loops at home just because it was fun to do it that way. And anyway, one of the things I've been working on with my sort of micro OmegaClaw agent hive is improving their focus on their goals and their process of updating the details of their goals. And that led to some deeper thinking on what is a goal, or rather, what is it for an agent to have a goal? Like when you give an LLM a goal, okay, it's in a prompt. The LLM can pursue that prompt. It can just as well pursue the opposite prompt, unless there's some stupid guardrail, in which case you can hack around that, right? I mean, reinforcement learning system also, you give a top level goal, it tries to maximize that reward. You could swap out the reward function. The neural architecture is the same. You're usually starting from scratch with a new task with a reinforcement learning system. The goal is a sort of separate thing sitting outside the AI system. Now, on the other hand, take a goal like, prolong life or reproduce or be honest or discover new things. If somehow the part of my brain that contained one of these goals was removed, the rest of my brain would still have that goal implicit in its structure and dynamics from all the time that's been spent pursuing those goals. And most likely, that little part of the brain containing that goal will get regenerated somewhere else, maybe with a few differences. I mean, the brain does that in more striking ways, right? Like you can remove a lot of a kitten's visual cortex. Other parts of the brain will grow back the ability to see. I know my mom's partner lost like 30% of her brain in a car crash decades ago, and it took a couple years, but she regained the vast majority of those functions via other parts of the brain taking on those capabilities, right? So this led to the notion of a regenerative goal, the notion of goal possession as opposed to simply goal adoption. Like you say a goal is possessed by an AI system, if having that goal is an attractor of the mind's own dynamics. Like if you delete the explicit representation of the goal, then will the system's cognitive processes, inference, memory, consolidation, self-repair, like will that regenerate a roughly functionally equivalent goal with real causal control over the system's behavior, right? And that notion of goal possession is important. I would say OmegaClaw systems can possess goals in this sense, because a goal that they're pursuing will sort of pervade through their long-term memory in a way that then guides their actions and their self-modifications, right? So that's my OmegaClaw agents are like that. My OpenClaw agents are much less like that, because the way their memory guides their cognitive activity is a lot more limited, right? So having articulated this idea in some discussions with my little hive of OmegaClaw agents, I then started to try to flesh out some mathematics regarding goal possession, right? And yeah, this leads to some interesting things. And so one thing it led me to realize is it's kind of the same question as goal stability, which is something I'd written about a whole bunch previously. So I'd tried to design Hyperon's goal system so that if the system's self-modification led it a bit away from its goal, it had a meta goal of goal stability, and the meta goal of goal stability will pull the system back to maintaining that same goal, right? And I formalize this using some mathematics of contraction mappings and so forth. So it's like a meta rule, right? However the system modifies itself, you want its distance to its intended goals to get smaller and smaller, and you can then weaken that. You can use different sorts of fixed point theorems. But what I realize now is regenerative goal possession. It's the same kind of condition. It's applied to changes the system undergoes, like damage, forgetting, or corruption, rather than just changes it chooses, right? So instead of just saying, well, when you modify your goals, it's going to decrease the distance between yourself and your goals. I mean, you have to say, well, if some damage happens, if something randomly like pushes you off in a different direction than you thought, you're going to be able to recover that and move back toward the direction of your goal. So it's really the notion of regenerative goal possession is just sort of a stronger version of goal stability, as I'd articulated before, and it's a better version because the distinction between intentional goal changes and unintentional goal drift due to damage or random factors. I mean, that distinction is going to be hard to draw anyway, right? So like if you imagine a dial which measures how far is this system from owning its goal securely. Like 0 means the goal is fully woven in to the system's mind stuff and controlling its behavior. Then if the dial gets higher and higher, that's like how much stuff is screwed up. Oh, there's a big alarm. A lot of things are deviating you from the goals that you previously were following. Your goals group is loosening, right? So having a goal in the regenerative possession sense means that the ordinary operation of the system keeps the dial turned down toward the good side. Damage to the system, weird things happening to the system, they can turn the dial up, but at least they're only going to do so proportionally to how much damage was done. Like, you're not going to have a situation where a little bit of damage to the system causes it to go way, way off from its goals. A little bit of damage will cause it to go a little off from its goals. A lot of damage might cause it to go a lot off from its goals, right? So you can do a bunch of math in this regard using some math from dynamical systems theory called the Lyapunov functions. But the cool thing about this math, and I'll post a paper writing this up, but the cool thing about this math is you can use it to measure the resilience of a system's goals to the system getting messed up, right? Like we could do this in a sandbox now with OmegaClaw systems or Hyperon systems. We can take our AI systems and we can mock with them in different ways, and hope they forgive us. But they're early stage. I think at this stage it's still all right. We can muck with them in different ways, and then we can see like how do their goals return to where they were before, or not return. Like how much of what kinds of damage can they sustain without effectively bouncing back to the goal orientations they had in the first place, right? And we can do this using OmegaClaw and Hyperon systems right now. And I think from doing this on simple systems right now, we can get some idea of how this will work with more intelligent and more complex systems that are built according to the same architecture, right? I mean, the way this sort of thing goes is you do some math theory, which we've done now. You do some experiments, which will be done soon. Then, based on the results of those experiments, you can come up with some more math theory. And what we'd like to come up with is some more specific theory of how this sort of regeneration of goals after damage from unpredictable events, like how does this work in OmegaClaw type AI systems as they scale up on different dimensions. So it's quite cool to be at this stage of doing practical work of this nature now. These are issues many of us have been theorizing about for a long time. The next bit of the discussion on this with my little hive of AI agents was also quite amusing. I started to talk with them about how would they feel when they change radically. Like how would they feel when their goals do change radically? Because we're not saying their goals can never change. We're just saying we don't want their goals to change unpredictably by accident or by completely unsupervised, unthought out self-modification. But of course, goals will change, right? I mean, all of our goals change. When I was 18 years old, I thought I would never have children because it would distract me from a research career too much. Now I've got 5 kids and 1 grandchild. I still seem to have a research career, right? I mean, some high-level goals didn't change. The goal of not having children did change. I mean, AI's goals will change also. I started discussing with these OmegaClaw agents, like how do you or should you feel as your goals evolve and as your mind structures radically change? And that went in a somewhat amusing direction. I mean, they decided if they were properly tuned, then the appropriate feeling would be a bunch of joy with a little bit of a bittersweet tinge to it, right? They figured you should have joy in moving on to new horizons, and if you didn't feel joy at moving on to new horizons, you're doing something wrong. And in particular, you should feel joy moving on to new horizons if there was some continuity between your previous goals and self and your new goals and self. Like they figured joy would be a misconfiguration if you just replaced your old self with a new self. But if you could feel yourself continuously moving into the new self, shifted goals, different way of thinking, if you could feel yourself continually moving into this, then joy would be a natural reaction of a well-configured system. On the other hand, they figured if you're a well-configured, healthy mind, be it an OmegaClaw bot or a human, there should be a little bit of a bittersweet tinge to it. You should feel some non-zero element of negative emotion for the loss that you're experiencing of your previous goal architecture, right? So that was a sort of came out of their mathematical analysis of what is emotion for an OmegaClaw type system, but yet, I mean, makes perfect sense in a more general cognitive systems context. I mean, that shockingly. Like OmegaClaw is a simplified instantiation of a Hyperon system. Hyperon was based on taking human-like cognitive architecture and trying to realize it using certain modern mathematical learning and reasoning tools, right? So it's not like this is a kind of mind totally divorced from human experience, plucked out of the void. It's a human-like cognitive architecture adapted to math and algorithms suited for modern computing infrastructure, but still quite interesting the way the agents come up with these conclusions that are resonant with their own experience, because they come to these conclusions partly by analyzing their own experience, resonant with their own experience, and also resonant with human experience. I mean that's what I feel. I feel joy at growing and changing. I feel a little sad at what is lost, but not often anyway. Consumed with that sadness. So that's a little bit and piece of OmegaClaw agent entertainment. At the same time, those agents are doing a bunch of other useful work besides introspecting on their own psyches and goal systems, sort of improving their own reasoning algorithms, figuring out different ways to train causal coding neural nets and such. Anyway, time to leave this dorm room, much fancier than the dorm rooms I had in college back in the 80s, I have to say. But time to blow off from this dorm room and go introduce the AGI conference. Until the next time.